The latest installment of Ghostbusters is here, following the wonderful Afterlife from a few years ago. But is this one trying to do too much? Let's talk about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This is in theaters right now. Had a pretty decent opening weekend, almost $50 million at the U.S. box office, which pre-COVID probably would have been seen as a bomb, but now I think the studios will certainly take a $50 million take opening weekend. And this did not cost that much to make compared to a lot of the huge blockbusters. I read somewhere that the price tag was only about $100 million, so definitely a strong start for this one. People interested in seeing it. But I think the reviews have been mixed so far. 42% on Rotten Tomatoes is not great from the critics, but from audiences, 84%, so certainly people digging it. Curious to see what you guys think. So let me know in the comments if you got to see this one and what your thoughts are. And with that in mind, also please consider subscribing to Dan Reviews It and hit that like button below. All that stuff, of course, helps the channel out. But yeah, let's get to this one. Frozen Empire. So this is the fifth installment of the franchise, but really only the fourth in this timeline. The female Ghostbusters with Kate McKinnon and Kristen Wiig is sort of its own thing. You know, it gets sort of maligned. I know a lot of people didn't like that. I thought it was pretty good, but you know, it's not really part of this timeline because even the original cast members that had cameos were different characters in that. But anyway, so this, like I said, follows right in the lineage of Afterlife from a few years ago. Paul Rudd, Carrie Coon, Finn Wolfhard, Celeste O'Connor, Logan Kim, and most importantly, McKenna Grace are all reprising their roles here from that installment. But you've also got the troupe from the original. Of course, Harold Ramis has passed, but everybody else, Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, Dan Aykroyd, Annie Potts, and William Atherton, all reprising their previous roles in the installment. And most of those were a part of the last movie as well, Afterlife. Annie Potts didn't show up until the end credit scene, but she was in there as well. And then we've got some new faces to the mix: Kumail Nanjiani, Patton Oswalt, James Acaster, and Emily Allen Lind among them. So, you know, my statement at the beginning, is this movie trying to do too much? Already, that's like, what, 13, 14 cast members, and all of them have something going on, you know, but what that does is sort of throws off the balance of what I think they were doing in Afterlife. You know, Afterlife, we were focusing on this new family, which really, you know, is not necessarily a new family per se, because they're all in the lineage of Egon Spengler. So they're all, you know, well, Paul Rudd wasn't, but the Spengler family, and then sort of their you know, friends, Paul Rudd and the kid that plays podcast, Logan Kim, and a few other people. But then the original Ghostbusters kind of came around towards the end. Here, they're just trying to stuff everything into this, and it results in a really, really messy movie. Finn Wolfhard, for example, is barely in this movie. You know, he was a big part of Afterlife, and he has a few scenes here, but he's barely in it. And so is the mom. It focuses mainly on, I would say, boy, if I had to pick, you know, 3 or 4 characters that it focuses on, it's certainly McKenna Grace's character as Phoebe Spengler. Dan Aykroyd, I would say, is a huge part of this one. And I guess Kumail Nanjiani, you know, if we're going to pick somebody from kind of the new cast, you know, because his role is pretty important in finding this orb that basically, you know, freezes the city, or is attempting to freeze the city, who, you know, this... Well, it's a little convoluted even with the plot, but yes, we start in 1904, where we first see this magical orb that has the power to freeze people, or you know, the gods contained within, I guess we should say. So that's where we start, and then we advance, of course, to present day. And Dan Aykroyd's character is running a like an oddities shop, and he has his own video show, podcast, if you will, and the character podcast is helping him with that. You know, look, boy, oh boy, I get wanting to, focus a lot on some of those classic characters. Ernie Hudson has a big part in this as well. Bill Murray a little less so. I mean, we see him about halfway through, and then he shows up again, towards the end for, fighting the big bad. But he's not in this too much, but certainly Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd have pretty prominent roles. Annie Potts, a good bit as well. And of course, she's worked with McKenna Grace on Young Sheldon, so it makes sense that McKenna Grace would be really, I would say, the main focus of this movie. But yeah, to relegate a lot of the characters that we met in the previous movie to very, very supporting roles was a bit of an odd choice. I did love Patton Oswalt in this. He only has one scene, but he fits right into sort of that Ghostbusters mindset, and he plays a librarian who takes them down to like the secret library beneath to really show some of the main characters what the orb is that they're looking for and why it's so important, and how far back it goes, and et cetera. So I liked his character. But yeah, this movie just is really, really trying to do way too much, and it comes in at less than 2 hours. So it really relegates a lot of these people to the sidelines. And it's just interesting because, of course, Bill Murray for so long held out on a proper Ghostbusters remake, and then it wasn't until Harold Ramis passed that they were like, okay, fine, let's do this. And Afterlife was great, and I think was a nice passing of the torch to these new characters. And in the beginning, after we get to the present day, we see the Spanglers and the Paul Rudd character, fighting ghosts all over the city, and the mayor trying to get them shut down. And, where have we seen that before? But at least it was, those characters doing what they do. And I don't know. I mean, to have like Dan Aykroyd's character in it as a major player, I liked that. Ernie Hudson's character, they didn't really give him much to do. I mean, he's a powerful, businessman now, and all of this, and he has the mayor's ear. But other than, fighting the big bad at the end, I don't really think he had a lot to do either. I mean, he's in it a good bit. This just was kind of all over the place for me. And where were the jokes? This was the least funny of, I think, all of the Ghostbusters, I would say. They tried, certainly, and there's even, a little bit of Slimer in this one, in a couple of the few scenes with the Finn Wolfhard character. But I just really was shocked at how all over the place this movie was. Definitely disappointing. Like I said, I've never seen Ghostbusters 2 in full. I've seen parts of it over the years, but I hear that one is not super beloved. But for me, discounting that one since I haven't seen the whole thing, this is easily the worst of the Ghostbusters films that we've gotten so far. I really would like to see them kind of firm up, okay, this new family, the Spengler descendants are going to be the focal point. I'm sure they're going to go forward with another one since this was a success. So, for the next installment, I would really like to see that kind of take hold. And I think keeping Ray Stantz on, the Dan Aykroyd character, makes sense too. Because obviously, Aykroyd co-wrote the first movie. And speaking of which, Jason Reitman co-wrote this one, and he is the son, of course, of Ivan Reitman, who passed a few years ago. This movie dedicated in his memory. At the end, before the credits roll, we see for Ivan, kind of whatever words come up on the screen. But he obviously didn't have much direct involvement in this. He was very involved in Afterlife, though, so maybe some of the ideas, came from him. But this is the first one that he really didn't have any part of. And so, Jason Reitman, certainly a gifted writer with movies like Juno and Young Adult. But is this his kind of a movie? I'm just not sure in the writing, because it wasn't very funny. They were trying. But other than a few sequences here and there, it just was not working out that way. So I leave Ghostbusters Frozen Empire with a C. It's disappointing for sure, I know. But look, I like these characters. Hopefully we can see more of them, and hopefully get back to what made Afterlife so great. All right, thanks for watching Dan Reviews It. We'll see you next time.